What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Hope you're doing well, feeling great, and enjoying freedom. It's a great year to have a great year. Happy New Year's Eve or Happy New Year's Day to everybody watching this, depending when you're viewing it. Today, I wanted to talk about how to be your own bank in the new year. We're going to be talking about silver, we're going to be talking about gold, we're going to be talking about cash, we're going to be talking about stocks, we're going to be talking about bonds, and we're going to be talking about credit. And by no means am I saying that these are the only ways of going about being your own bank, but you'll notice throughout the course of the video, diversification is key. It's not a matter of this or that, but rather this and that. So let's get into it. But really quick, just in case you're new, make sure to subscribe for a bunch of videos. Subscribe to my second channel for bonus videos. Get yourself some DYDSS merchandise to help support the channel in the biggest possible way. Link in the description. Try out some G Fuel energy formula, $5 off your first order by clicking the link in the description. And of course, last but certainly not least, make sure to go and get your free stocks by simply downloading Webull and funding your account. Every month they have a new promo going on where if you refer a friend or two or three or however many it's structured, they're going to give you even more free stocks, higher caliber stocks. It's usually something like Apple, sometimes Starbucks. One time I even got Papa John's. Link in the description. Alright, so today I wanted to talk about being your own bank in the new year. I wanted to start with silver. As you can see on screen right here, that's what takes up most of what's on the table here. And silver, unlike gold, is more of the underdog metal, if that makes sense. That's the best way I can explain it. In comparison to gold, gold is what is typically viewed as almost like a symbol of royalty, a status symbol, wealth. That's what people look at gold as. That's what like the big dogs, the multi-millionaires, the billionaires of the world go after. They go for gold, gold bars, gold coins. But silver, on the other hand, is kind of the slept-on metal, which is why I've always considered it to be the opportunity metal, because yes, it's a little bit more volatile, sporadic, unpredictable than gold, but silver offers what I consider to be a much bigger opportunity. Reason I say this is because gold is something that I consider and many consider to be fair valued right now, and if you buy into something, or if you purchase something, or convert your dollars into something that's fair valued, nothing wrong with that at all. That's great. Most people advise you to not buy into something that's overvalued. But if it's fair valued, and if it's something of quality, you're good as, no pun intended, gold. However, silver, I would consider, and many others would consider, to be undervalued, which is an even bigger opportunity. Silver is dirt cheap, if you think about it. Now, the reason a lot of people stack silver is merely to hedge against inflation. And over the course of years, decades, I believe it will do its job combating inflation. I don't believe looking at one high inflation year and comparing it to what the spot price did is a fair way of going about it. I think you need to look at over the course of like 10 to 20 years. So that's what silver, and also gold, is intended to be used for. It's not necessarily a way of investing in something like physical that you can hold in your hands. Like, yeah, it's physical, you can hold it in your hands, but I would in no way, shape, or form call it an investment. That's not what it's for. People do not convert their dollar bills into silver or gold expecting massive returns. That's not what precious metals are for. Precious metals are simply a way of saving money, but in a more intelligent way, as opposed to saving currency, just hanging on to dollar bills, stacking it all up in a savings account and getting that 0.1% interest Oh joy, how much money that's gonna make me. As opposed to that, generating minimal returns while also depreciating in value by on average about 2% a year because of inflation, the dollar bill is destined to go down. That's just what it does. Unfortunately, that's just matter of fact. Dollar bill loses purchasing power over time. Every minute of every hour of every day of every week of every month of every year, dollar bill is on that downward trajectory. Now, depending on what the economy is doing, it can strengthen the dollar, but the dollar bill is not really ever going to go up in value. The dollar bill loses purchasing power. Meanwhile, silver and gold, what they are intended to do, what people expect them to do, is preserve that purchasing power. See, picture having a $100 bill like I have on screen right here, and then picture having a magical $100 bill over there. The first $100 bill depreciates in value as it does. The other special $100 bill somehow appears to go up in value by, let's just say, about 2% a year on average over the course of a 20-year run. 2% a year, wow, okay, that's not really anything special, but guess what? The average inflation is about 2% a year. So it was going up in value as the dollar bill was going down in value over the course of decades, aka it preserved its purchasing power. It went up at roughly the same rate as the dollar went down. That's what people believe in silver for, and gold. See, when I say silver, I'm also referring to gold. That's what people use precious metals for. That's what people are expecting out of precious metals. They're not putting $20 into silver expecting the spot price to go up to $70 in the next couple of years. Absolutely not. I would not expect that in any way, shape, or form. I don't even know if I could see silver going up to $30, $40, $50, $60 over the next couple of decades, if I'm going to be honest with you. I do believe it'll appreciate in value, but silver is used for that reason right there, the opportunity. Meanwhile, gold, let's switch on over to the beautiful yellow metal now. You can see we have just a little bit over here on screen. I have a 1/4 ounce Philharmonic, a couple 1/10 ounce pieces, and even, you can't really see it, but over here on the right side, I have a couple of gold backs. Gold offers something that silver does not. They are very similar, but just because gold is yellow and silver is white doesn't mean that gold is just simply a yellow version of silver and silver is just a white version of gold. No, absolutely not. They are very similar in what we use them for, but they're very different metals. They're not only precious metals, but they're also industrial metals. They have real, true, honest, intrinsic value outside of just being a coin, a round, or a bar, or something that we can look at as something to potentially or hopefully hedge against inflation long term. They have real, true, intrinsic value. They are used for jewelry, silverware. They are conductors of both heat and electricity. They're used in so many different ways. Now, gold, unlike silver, like I said before, silver is a little bit more volatile and offers more opportunity there. Think of it as, look at it from a stock perspective. Think of silver as more of the up-and-coming growth stock, while gold has kind of moved out of the growth phase, but it's a massively well-established corporation that isn't going anywhere. That's kind of the best way that I can compare it. So gold offers something that silver does not, which is more stability. Is it guaranteed stability? No. Gold has its bad days as well. Gold has its bad years as well. But gold, when the market takes a hit, when silver gets smacked, gold gets smacked as well, but not nearly as hard. Gold does a better job holding its own. And in addition to that, what I like to say about silver and gold, like I said, it's not about silver or gold, it's about silver and gold. The best way I can describe it is if you're going to be your own bank, you're going to want dollar bills of all denominations. Well, silver can be kind of looked at as the ones, the fives, and the tens, while gold can be looked at as the 20s, the 50s, and the hundreds. That's probably the best way that I can explain the importance of diversifying with both precious metals. You can pack much more value into such a small little piece of gold. Like that little 10th ounce gold coin right there, that is 1/10 of a troy ounce of gold. And guess what? At one point, when the gold to silver ratio was like exactly 100-1, that little dime size piece of gold was worth the same amount of dollar bills as the 10 ounce block of silver that it's sitting on top of. The same amount of dollars. But look at the difference. One is almost the size of a smartphone, the other one's about the size of a fingernail. Just something to think about. Now, as I had just mentioned, the importance of diversifying with larger denominations, smaller denominations, let's move into the cash world. And I'll make this very, very quick because I'm not putting all my hopes and dreams in cash. My personal net worth at the time I'm recording this video, I only have about maybe 5 or 6% of my net worth in cash at this time. And that's only because, and that's a low number by the way, but the reason it's as high as it is because I am saving up for an investment. So yes, I'm setting on a little bit more cash than I ordinarily would. I'm sitting on more cash than I'm personally comfortable with, but that's because I'm saving up for an investment. I don't plan on holding onto that cash forever. But the cash that I am holding onto primarily is being held in a high yield savings account, and a portion of it is being held in a CD account. Now, what I like about cash is obviously the liquidity. It's even more liquid than something that's liquid, if that makes sense. See, silver, gold, stocks, whatever, you can sell them no problem. You can exchange them for cash at any time. However, cash, you don't have to exchange anything for the cash. The cash is already cash. So it's quick and easy, ready to use, and I like to think of it as a tool. That's all it is. It's not money. It's currency. And currency is a tool. Currency is just what our system is currently going by, and currency is just what we use as a tool to propel ourselves forward. Think of it for a second. Regardless of what your financial goal is right now, whether you're trying to stack up as much silver and gold as possible, whether you're trying to build up a multi-million-dollar portfolio, S&P 500 real estate business, whatever it is that you're doing, you need cash. You need capital. You need something to propel you forward. You need something to buy yourself in. Well, that's what cash has to offer. And not only that, regardless of your view on the dollar bill, you need to have a little bit set aside just for emergency purposes. You need to have, there's no set amount, but the best way you can calculate your amount is by taking a look at all of your expenses. Ignore everything that's not necessary. I'm talking about the living expenses, keeping a roof over your head, food in the fridge, your car on the road, stuff like that. Take those expenses, total them up for the month, and multiply it by 3. It's best to have a 3-month emergency fund. You can do without your Netflix subscription. You can do without going to get pizza every Friday night. You could do without those things. I'm talking about the necessary, cannot live without expenses. Your insurance, maybe your phone bill, stuff like that. The important things. Total it up, however much you pay for the month, multiply it by 3. That's how much you want to have set aside. God forbid, knock on wood, something happens to you and you're unable to work, or to your job, your stream of income. You want to have 3 months of living expenses. Now, it's always been the case. Everybody's always said, yeah, you want to have 1 to 3 months. I would actually recommend considering 3 to 6 months. Only reason I say this is because in 2020, we all learned that financial setbacks can last longer than 3 months. So do with that what you will. Remember to stay focused. Remember to stay strong. Remember to stay disciplined. And continue to diversify. Now, I also want to talk about the importance of and investing in stocks as well as bonds. And as we go into that, just a friendly reminder to go and get your free stocks by simply downloading Webull. Just download the app, link in the description. Fund your account, any amount, it could even be a penny. Still works, it still counts, you still get your free fractional shares. And I also, before I completely move away from cash, let's also talk a little bit about cash back before we get into what we really want to talk about here, investing in the stock market. I wanted to also mention credit. And in no way, shape, or form am I going to sit here and say that you need to figure out a way, or I'm going to teach you how to live exclusively off of credit or even partially off of credit. No, that's not what credit is for. Credit is designed similar to cash. Credit is another tool. This right here, these right here in my hand, these are my favorite two credit cards, and I'll explain why in just one second. But credit is not something you are supposed to use to live off of. It is not something that's supposed to fund your lifestyle. Credit is something that I've been using for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years. I've been actively building my credit. I think I'm at an 808 right now credit score. And I've never carried a balance. I've never paid interest on any of my credit cards, and I have 7, by the way. But these two right here, these are my personal favorites, and I'll explain why right now. The first one here, this is the Discover It cashback card, and I'll make this quick. But if you're interested in this card, I will leave a referral link in the description. You don't have to use mine if you don't want to, but I'll explain what I'm talking about here. This right here, the Discover It cashback card, this offers 1% cashback on absolutely everything, but here's the kicker. Every 3 months, every quarter of the year, they change the category, which gives you 5% cashback in whatever that category is. Sometimes it can be gas stations. That's incredibly helpful. 5% back on gas. Why would you not want to take that? Sometimes it's 5% back on PayPal transactions, aka everything that you're buying on eBay. Sometimes it's 5% back on Amazon, 5% back at restaurants, 5% back on this, 5% back on that. This right here, every quarter of the year it changes, and it's always something practical. It's never 5% on, something that you never buy anyway. It's, wholesale clubs, grocery stores. It's always something like that. Every 3 months it changes, and it gives you 5% back. And what's cool about this card is during your first year, your first 365 days, they actually double your cash back at the end of that first year. So if you think about it, it's not 5% back on all those categories. It's 10% back. And if you use it on something that's not within the category for the quarter, then you're getting 2% back. That's a massive opportunity right there. 5% is awesome enough, but during your first year, getting 10% back, that's unbelievable. So like I said, I'll leave a referral link in the description. You don't have to use my link if you don't want to, but if you do, you and I each get a $50 statement credit, which means they just credit your account $50 and you can spend that $50 for free. You can buy whatever you want up to $50. And guess what? You get cash back on that $50 spent too. Link in the description. The other credit card here I have is the Capital One Saver One. This is what I consider to be the date night card. I named this the date night card, and it's because this right here, it gives me 3% back year-round on groceries, which is awesome. I use this, for grocery stores for the most part. But it also gives me 3% back year-round on dining and entertainment. Now, this goes for anything under the umbrella of dining and entertainment. It could be actually dining at a restaurant. It could be takeout. It can be delivery. I believe it would go for Uber Eats as well, to my understanding. You get 3% back on all that. And as for entertainment, again, anything under the umbrella of entertainment. Buying concert tickets, 3% back. Going bowling, 3% back. Going to a baseball game, 3% back. Anything under the umbrella of dining and entertainment, 3% back. And what's cool about this card is they have an intro bonus. So if you apply for the card and you get approved for the card, I'll leave a link in the description as well. On your first $500, or should I say, if you spend $500, which isn't hard to do, just go grocery shopping, $500 in your first 3 months, they're going to give you $150 cash back. $150 of the $500 spent in only 3 months. Very easy to do. That was the first thing I did as soon as I got this card. Once again, 3% back on groceries, 3% back on dining and entertainment, 1% back on absolutely everything else, and $150 statement credit will be given to you upon $500 spent in your first 3 months. Easy as pie. Link in the description. All right, so moving away from cash, moving away from credit, moving away from silver and gold, let's now talk about stocks and bonds. Now, full disclaimer, I am personally not bond heavy at all. A very, 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 very small portion of my net worth is in bonds, and it's strictly for the diversification. Like I said in the intro of the video, diversification is key. It's not a matter of this or this or this. It's a matter of this and that. The importance of diversifying and getting maximum exposure to the different markets. That right there was the goal. And I wanted to have a very small percent of exposure to the bond market. Now, similar to what I said about silver and gold earlier in the video, about how silver is more of the growth play, while gold is the more stability play, very similar could be said about stocks and bonds. Now, the typical 401k, and you can recreate this. It doesn't have to be a 401k. It could be a Roth IRA. It could just be your regular taxable brokerage account. The way it's typically set up is a majority in the beginning stages is dedicated to stocks, and a small percentage is dedicated to bonds. The old way used to be 10% of the account dedicated to bonds for every 10 years of age you are. So if you get this started at age 30, 70% is stock focused and 30% is bond focused. I personally believe that is very, very bond heavy. In my personal opinion, I'm not a financial advisor. I think cutting that in half is arguably a much better way to go. I don't think you need to have 10% more in bonds every 10 years, but you can do whatever you want. But anyway, the typical 401k, if you're investing in a target date fund, that's kind of how it's structured. When you start out early into your career or early into this 401k account, a portion of it is bond focused and a majority of it is stock focused. And as you progress throughout your career, as you get older and as you get closer to retirement, this account slowly but surely becomes more and more bond heavy. It goes from 10% to 12% to 14% to 18% to 25% to 30%. This is strictly for stability. Bonds, much more stable than stocks. Stocks, more volatile. And when you hit the age where you retire and as a couple years into your retirement, the last thing you want to see is a lot of volatility. You're 60, 70, 80 years old. You're retired. You don't want to worry about the ups and downs. You don't want to worry about all the craziness. You don't want to, be affected by things going on in the world and what it's doing to the stock market. You want to be retired. So that's why as you get older and the closer you get to retirement, the more the 401k becomes more bond heavy, aka more stability heavy. Now, you can do this in so many different ways, and you don't even have to worry about stocks versus bonds or what's the proper percentage allocation. You don't have to worry about any of that. What you can do, regardless of how you want to go about investing, whether it's in a 401k or a Roth IRA, which, by the way, you can set yourself up a Roth IRA on Webull. Again, the link will be in the description. If you download the app and you fund your account any amount, They're going to give you free fractional shares just for doing so, and every month they have a referral promo. If you refer 1 or 2 or 3 or however many friends they want you to refer, they're going to give you higher caliber stocks, which you can keep and hold on to, or you can sell and use the cash to buy something else. Link in the description. But you can create a Roth IRA right there on Webull. Now, if you don't know the difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k, a 401k is typically attached to your job, attached to your employer, and your pre-tax dollars go in, aka a larger amount of dollars go in. It defers the taxes until you start to withdraw when you are eligible to withdraw. You can withdraw earlier than that, but you're going to have to pay taxes. Or you're going to have to pay a fee, I should say, taxes and a fee. You don't want to do that. You want to wait until you are 59 and a half or older to start withdrawing from this account, because then you're not going to get hit with an early withdrawal fee. But that's the point of the 401k. Pre-tax dollars go in, it grows over time within the account, and then you pay taxes later on. It gets that snowball effect started a little bit quicker, because a larger amount of dollar bills are going in as opposed to a smaller amount of dollar bills going in. It just kind of kickstarts the growth, makes things a little bit quicker over the course of your career pre-retirement. A Roth IRA, on the other hand, is completely separate from your job. It's not attached to your job. Anybody can open up a Roth IRA. Like I said, I will leave the Webull link in the description. You can set up a Roth IRA on there. Now, what a Roth IRA is post-tax dollars going in. Dollars that were already taxed. Uncle Sam already took his cut. Post-tax dollars invested in the Roth IRA account, growing over time, and when you are 59 and a half or older, you can withdraw and cash out on those gains completely and entirely 100% tax-free. No penalty, no taxes, nothing. Because you already paid taxes on the dollars before you invested them into whatever you invested them in within the Roth IRA. So that's the difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k. A 401k, pre-tax dollars go in, you pay taxes later. Roth IRAs, you already paid taxes, you put those dollars in, and tax-free retirement. If you want to do one versus the other, neither one is better or worse, or if you want to do it the way I'm doing, both. Like I said, it's not this or that, it's this and that. So that's the way I go about that's the way I go about building myself up a retirement account. I build up multiple retirement accounts, and I build multiple different types of retirement accounts. Now, what's interesting about doing it this way, the Roth IRA way, is that you have more control over where your dollar bills go in. You can readjust, you can rebalance at any time. Meanwhile, the 401k is typically taken care of for you. But doing things the Roth IRA way, if you don't know where to go, the best way to go typically is in a low-cost, broad market index fund. It could be, let's just say, potentially the S&P 500, which is the 500 biggest, best performing, publicly traded U.S. stocks. It can be an index that takes care of or that holds the entire U.S. market, aka thousands and thousands of publicly traded stocks, large cap, mid cap, small cap, everything. It can be a bond market index. That way you don't have to worry about, oh, what type of bond should I buy into? No, it's just a little bit of everything. It can be an international index fund if you want more exposure to emerging markets and other countries and the stocks, the publicly traded companies that they have over there. It can be a total world index, which is absolutely every publicly traded stock on the planet. There are so many different ways you can go. If you want to focus on more tech, you can buy into a tech index, which is made up of nothing but tech stocks. You can buy into utility indexes. You can buy into this kind of index, that kind of index. Whatever your primary focus is, there is an index fund for you. And the cool thing about the index fund is that you get maximum exposure and you can be completely hands off. It's one of those set it and forget it. See, that's what's cool about the S&P 500. As I mentioned before, it's the 500 biggest, best performing publicly traded stocks here in the United States over the course of a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You think it's the same 500 companies forever? Absolutely not. Apple right now is the number one holding in the S&P 500. Apple was not founded prior to the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is older than Apple. Apple made its way in. It worked its way up. It got into the 500. It got into the top 100. It got into the top 10. And right now it's sitting at number 1. Tesla is another good example. Tesla's in the top 10. Tesla didn't exist 20, 30, 40 years ago. So companies are introduced to the world. They see massive growth. They're explosive. They dominate their sector. They work their way up. They become a powerhouse. They get into the S&P 500. And guess what happens when it goes from, just about to crack the top 100 and then they finally hit that 500 mark? It means that whoever was in the 500th place prior got bumped down and bumped out. So it's always going to be the top 500 best performing. It's always going to be the superior 500. It's always going to be that way. If one starts to lag or underperform, it gets swapped out by default. You don't have to do that. You don't have to click a million buttons and be like, oh, let me go through all 500 of these companies and make sure they're all doing what they're supposed to do. You don't have to worry about that. It's all taken care of by default. And this gives you exposure to the best performing 500 companies at all times. If you want to have exposure beyond that, you can buy into the total US market or the international market or the total world market or whatever it is that you're focused on. That right there is the power of the index fund. There's a quote: don't worry about trying to find the needle in the haystack. Just buy the haystack. The needle's in there. That right there is the best way that I can explain the power of index funds. It gives you everything you need, everything you could possibly want, all wrapped up in one. All the stocks that you like, all the companies that you're familiar with, household names. See, a lot of people, they worry about like, oh, what stock should I buy? A lot of people say like, oh, I'm wearing Nikes right now. I'm a big fan of Nikes. I love their sneakers. I should buy Nike stock. Or you can just buy into the S&P 500 because Nike's in there. Did you brush your teeth this morning? Guess what? Colgate's in there. Did you do laundry this week? Guess what? Clorox is in there. Do you have an iPhone? Guess what? Apple's in there. Did you see a Tesla driving on the road today? Guess what? Tesla's in there. Maybe you didn't see a Tesla. Maybe you saw a Ford. Guess what? Ford is in there. Everything you know. All these publicly traded companies. Did you buy something on Amazon? Amazon's in there. Are you watching this on YouTube? YouTube is owned by Google. Google's in there. Everything you know, everything you use, everything that you're already buying into anyway is all wrapped up in one. It's sitting there in an index fund for you, along with 499 others. That right there is the power of that. With, on top of that, an average annual rate of return of like 10%. Of course, you're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have some years that aren't so good. I believe it was 2021, I want to say. Or was it 2022? I'm losing track. But one of those 2 years, the S&P 500 was down 16%. We were underwater that year. From January 1st to December 31st of that year, the S&P 500 was negative 16%. But what was it the year before that? It was like 26%. You will have, it's not going to give you 10% every single year guaranteed. On average, over a 20-year window, it averages about 10%. Or 8% if you want to factor in inflation, which is still unbelievable. 8%? That right there outpaces inflation. The average rate of inflation is 2%. Yeah, we saw higher inflation in the last couple of years. But guess what? Average inflation, it's about 2%. average rate of return for the market is about 10%. So 10 minus 2, 8%. If you factor in inflation, you're seeing roughly an 8% return every year, or on average. That right there is a powerhouse. That right there is something that has gotten people tremendously wealthy. They've reduced their expenses. They put an emergency fund to the side. They put dollar bills into other asset classes for diversification purposes. And they just pump dollar bills into index funds. An average annual rate of return of 8 to 10%, depending on how you're looking at it, while continuing to make contributions, while reinvesting dividends. It's a no-brainer. So last but certainly not least, let me just remind everybody, you can get started on Webull. Download the app, link in the description, fund your account any amount. They're going to give you free stocks just for doing so. And every month they have a new referral promo going on where if you refer 1 or 2 or 3 or however many friends, they're going to give you higher caliber stocks, usually Apple stock. Sometimes it's something else, but usually it's Apple. Webull, link in the description. Now I want you guys to head on down to the comments and let me know anything and everything related to today's video topic. When it comes to being your own bank, when it comes to investing in the stock market, when it comes to converting your dollar bills into silver and gold, when it comes to maybe introducing bonds to your portfolio, or when it comes to credit, which not only gives you or has the ability to give you tremendous amounts of cash back, but forgot to mention this before, just by building your credit, which can be done for free, doesn't cost money to build credit, and you never have to pay interest if you pay all your payments on time before they're due. If you build your credit by doing it that way, the free and easy way, you're going to have a higher credit score, and what comes with a higher credit score is lower interest payments. I recently got a new car, and guess what? Because my credit is so good, over 800, I get lowest possible interest rates. The interest that I'm paying for my auto loan is less than half, or about half of what the market typically returns. So I was like, all right, you know what? That's the way to go. If and when I get to the point where I'm ready to buy a house, I know that I will be paying a smaller amount in interest than somebody who put the same money down but doesn't have as good of credit. Credit saves you money. Simply having a good credit score will save you money long term. Not only that, it'll give you money back for spending with the card. Cash back. Those links will be in the description. Remember the Discover It Cashback, the green card I was talking about. If you apply for and get approved for the card through my referral link, you and I each get a free $50. And the Capital One Saver One card, if you spend $500 in your first 3 months, they're going to give you $150 back. Both links will be in the description. And that right there is just a short list of examples offering some perspective on some different ways you can go about being your own bank in the new year. Like I said, it's not about this or that, it's about this and that. It's about diversification. In this upcoming year, diversification is key. Remember that. Remember not to put all your eggs in one basket, put multiple eggs in multiple baskets. Get as much exposure to different markets as you can. And keep trucking along. Stay focused, stay determined. Keep working hard. If you're not working hard, start working hard. If you're already working hard, work harder. If you're already working harder, keep working harder, but figure out a way to also work smarter. There's no shortage of opportunity out there. There's no shortage of prosperity. There's no shortage of success. There's no shortage of any of that. Everything you want is right there for the taking. All you have to do is reach out and take it. Have a good new year, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. That right there is how you can go about being your own bank. And this isn't the end-all, be-all. There are more ways you can go about doing it as well. This is just the way that I'm doing it. If you guys like today's video, please hit that like button, subscribe. If you're new, subscribe to my second channel, which is my backup channel For exclusive bonus content, get yourself some DYDSS merchandise to help support the channel in the biggest possible way. We got t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, coffee mugs in a bunch of different colors, a bunch of different designs. Some of them, a portion of the proceeds, are going directly to different charity organizations, so you can help us out with that. Try out some G Fuel Energy Formula, $5 off your first order by clicking the link in the description. Over 50 different flavors to choose from. Sugar-free, low-calorie, packed with a whole bunch of vitamins. Absolutely delicious. This is the Miami Nights flavor. It's like pina colada flavor. It's my favorite flavor, but like I said, you have over 50 to choose from. $5 off. Link in the description. And last but certainly not least, make sure to go and get your free stocks by downloading Webull, link in the description, and funding your account any amount. You could put $1,000 in, $100, $1, or even a penny. It still works, it still counts. You still get your up to 12 free fractional shares. Or if they offer a certain other amount at one point in the future and you just happen to be watching this video later on, because this number has changed, by the way. They offered 5, they offered 6, they offered 10, they offered at the moment 12. Go get your free stocks, however many it's going to be. And every month they have a different referral promo. Usually they want you to refer 3 friends. Sometimes they only want you to refer 1. And they're going to give you a higher caliber stock. Usually Apple stock, but it's always something of a powerhouse. Sometimes it's Apple, occasionally, or one time it's been Starbucks, one time it was Papa John's. Sometime there have been times where it was Google, but it's usually Apple. But either way, it's always a higher caliber stock, which you can keep and hold on to, or you can sell and use that cash to buy something you would rather have instead. It's yours to do what you want with. Webull link in the description, and remember, if you want to set yourself up a Roth IRA on there, you can do that as well. Everything will be in the description. Head on down to the comments and let me know, how do you plan on being your own bank in the new year? Are you going to set yourself up a savings account? Or it doesn't have to be a savings account, but are you going to prioritize building yourself up an emergency fund of cash? Are you going to stack more silver? Are you going to stack more gold? Are you going to build your credit? Are you going to beef up that stock portfolio? Maybe introduce a little bit of bonds to the portfolio for stability purposes. How are you going to be your own bank in the new year? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one. Don't you dare stop smiling. Peace.